What's up, Navigating Academia family? This is your buddy, Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, your personal academic mentor, coming to you today to be able to bring you another episode of Navigating Academia, your leading guide for how to be able to advance your career in academia. Now, I'm super excited today because today is our first collaboration video. And you guys know that I only collaborate with YouTubers who I really believe in their work, in their channel, and that I can formally endorse. And you guys know me, I'm super critical about this kind of stuff. So I'm super excited that my my first collaboration is with Professor Toyin Alli of the Academic Society. So you can take a look down here. This is how you spell it, okay? So if you put the Academic Society in quotation marks into the YouTube search box, check out her videos. She's awesome. Always remember that if you want to go quickly, go alone, but if you want to go further, go together. And Toyin is somebody who I personally am a big fan of, and her work is exceptional. So definitely check out her videos, especially if you're a junior academic or you're just getting into grad school right now. And in addition to that, Toyin actually has developed an entire program for that period between when you get into grad school and actually starting grad school. So make sure to be able to check out her official website as well. You can go ahead and check her channel out on YouTube. It'll tell you all about those products and services that she offers. So today what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing 5 of what I perceive to be the biggest mistakes that you can make when it comes to grad school. And Toyin is going to do another 5 from her background and from her perspective. And I'm both going to put a card somewhere up here to be able to link to her video, and also down in the description box below, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to her video. So make sure to check out those other 5. She shared with me what they are, and they are awesome. Just as good as the 5 that I hope to be able to share with you guys here today. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. One of the biggest mistakes that I see, guys, when it comes to graduating and then before starting graduate school itself is not doing a great job at maximizing your protective factors before you start this journey. Grad school is something that it's going to be one of the most difficult things, if not the most difficult thing, that you have undertaken professionally, especially if it's the case that you're going straight from undergrad into graduate school. Regardless of whether it's a master's or especially if it's a doctorate of any kind, this is going to be really tough. So I want you guys to remember what we talk about on this channel, which is what I call the 7 different dimensions of optimization, right? And these are your physical health, your mental health, your occupational educational health, including anything financial, including stuff like student loan debt and how you're going to kind of handle that during grad school itself, your spiritual health, whatever that means to you, and 3 kinds of social health. Your social health platonically with your friends, your social health familially, so with your family, and your social health romantically with a partner or with a spouse. These are the 7 different areas that I really want you to focus on getting everything kind of in line. This could be getting on a solid, let's say physical health, a solid sleep schedule. I'm a low carb diet guy myself. That really works for me. Keeping those insulin levels really stable helps me out a ton when it comes to regulating my wake sleep cycle, getting high quality sleep, and also keeping my weight under control, which is something that in grad school, it is very often that we are going to end up at the end of the day gaining a significant amount of weight. One of the reasons why is that 38% of men and 44% of women, according to the research literature across fields, are going to develop either a diagnosable form of depression or an anxiety disorder during grad school. We really need to be prepared for that. And by maxing out our protective factors, getting physically healthy, I'm a huge believer in therapy, so don't ever be ashamed. There's no stigma in terms of going and seeing a therapist, regardless of whether they're a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a counselor, a social worker. We could go on, right? I highly recommend that, especially if you've gone through a difficult time during undergrad. Maybe you've got some unresolved traumas from your past. Gabor Mate, I love what he has to say about that in terms of talking about him having children. Professor Mate says, you know what? The question isn't, are you going to screw your kids up? The question is, how badly are you going to screw your kids up? All right? So all of us have some sort of traumas from our childhood. Even if we think we have these idyllic ones, it's always good to be able to talk that through with somebody, right? Your spiritual health, if you are someone who is religious, getting really grounded in your God, in your religion is a wonderful idea. It provides you with that anchor, and especially because it's very common actually for people to fall away from their faith during grad school because they're so chronically stressed out. It's a great idea to be able to do your best to get that anchoring and set that support system up before you get going when it comes to grad school, all right? Now, I already mentioned student loan debt. How are you going to handle that? Have you already applied for any fellowships, scholarships? Maybe you want to approach some private foundations. Some people these days even go on to crowdfunding platforms, try to crowdfund part of their tuition every year or some expenses in terms of wherever they're going to be living. You name it, right? And then when it comes to the social aspect, it's really critical that you talk to your partner, your spouse, talk to your family, talk to your platonic friends, and let them know that you know that this is going to be really stressful. And it's not going to be stressful for like 6 months. It's going to be progressively more and more stressful until you actually finish. And you can really use their support, even though you may not be able to be with them emotionally in the same way that you're going to need them for that time. And that can be really tough. That can really be a strain on any kind of relationship, be it romantic or platonic or familial. So be sure to have those conversations early on. You don't want to not say anything, and then all of a sudden those relationships find themselves strained. So number one is not maximizing your protective factors before you start. Number two is not prioritizing your work. A lot of people come to me and they say, Dr. Singh, at the end of the day, work-life balance is really important to me. And I have a lot of respect for that. That's something that's a priority for me, but it's a priority for me. I got my first doctorate like over 10 years ago, right? And my second doctorate, I got a few years after that. So this is one of these situations where when it comes to grad school, guys, there's times for everything in life. There's seasons for everything in life. Grad school is not the season to seek balance. I wish that was the case, but you guys know me on this channel. I am always very honest with you, very blunt, very straightforward. I wish that I had somebody like that when I was going through this process as well, but I honestly didn't. So this is why this channel exists, is to be able to give you guys straightforward guidance and to be able to answer your questions. So if you do have questions, make sure to put them down in the comments below. I'll do my best for you. But this is a time in terms of grad school to prioritize the working side of your life, regardless of whether you're in some sort of practicum, so some sort of practice, for example, clinical psychology based program, or if you're doing some kind of a research doctorate. This is a time of tremendous personal and professional growth. It's going to be a time of tremendous challenge. But remember that there's a difference between challenge and threat. Okay, so a challenge is something where the amount of resources that you perceive yourself to have and the amount of resources actually needed to be able to accomplish a task, it's going to stretch you, right? This is what Vygotsky called the zone of proximal development. It's going to stretch you, but if you stretch yourself, you can actually achieve it. Then on the other hand, you've got a threat. The idea behind the threat is here's the resources you perceive yourself to have, and here's the resources that the task actually requires. So no matter how much you stretch, you're not going to be able to get there. And when something that's a challenge ends up being perceived as a threat, all kinds of health consequences can arise from that. And honestly, if you're trying to just split your time and say, my weekends are sacred, I'll never work on the weekends, or you know what, I'm going to work my butt off from 9 to 5, and then that's it. I'm going to go home after that, and my day will be done. You are in for a very rude awakening, my friend, and you need to know that before you go in. Maybe grad school is just not for you, and that is also okay. You don't have to go to graduate school to be successful in life. I have so many friends who just have their undergrad degrees, some who don't even have that, and who are wildly successful. But if it's something where you don't want to prioritize work for these years, do not go to graduate school. It is a huge mistake that I see over and over again, okay? Does that mean that you can have no fun no matter what? Of course it doesn't. But just remember, if you're looking for some 50-50 split or even something like a 25% fun, home life, 75% work split, the likelihood it's going to happen, pretty low. So that's number two. Number three for me is trying to do your most seminal work as a graduate student. A lot of people, when they get into grad school, I can tell you this was true for myself, A lot of us have this assumption that we're going to do the most important work of our career because we've been waiting our whole lives to be able to get these doctorates or to be able to complete these master's theses. We really think that the most seminal work of our lives will be done during these years. And I'm here to tell you that that is very rarely the case. A lot of people think, for example, in my field, in clinical psych, oh my gosh, I became a clinical psychologist, but I didn't do a lot of work when it comes to neuropsychology or forensic psychology or developmental psychology. That means I've shot myself in the proverbial foot, and now I will never be able to work with that population, or I'll never be good at that because my most important work was done during grad school. That is bogus. That is not true, okay? Rather, this is something that, especially if you're in some sort of a clinical field, in most countries, every few years, you need to reapply for licensing. And when you try to renew your license, you're going to be required usually to complete some form of continuing education. In some countries, they call this CPD, which is continuing professional development. And you can get as much training as you want on forensic psychology or developmental psychology or neuropsychology or whatever you like. There's so many certifications and board approvals that you're going to be able to go after grad school. And when it comes to research, it's the same thing. Use this as an opportunity to get really good at stats and really good at all kinds of different research methodologies. Don't do only what your graduate supervisor says in terms of only read this one thing or only learn about this one method. This is the time for you to obviously take their guidance seriously, but at the same time, and this is mistake number 4 in my opinion, is doing what other people tell you without understanding why. So if your graduate supervisor tells you, for example, that you're going to use logistic regression or some form of survival analysis like Cox regression to be able to analyze your data set, don't just say, okay, great. You can ask them why, but even if they're too busy for you, right, which can happen, sometimes supervisors, they just expect you to do all the work on your own or even to figure out what kind of analysis you think should be done on the data before you even approach them or talk to them. And that's completely fine. There's all different types of graduate supervisors. The thing is, though, is that no matter what they tell you, big mistake. I know from my own personal experience, if you watch other videos on the channel, I'll tell you about how I failed my graduate oral exams for this reason. I didn't do my job doing enough background research to be able to understand why I was doing what I was doing, and most importantly, what are the alternatives that I didn't pick. Right? Why did I use logistic regression? And why did I use backwards stepwise regression instead of enter method forwards regression, right? And linear regression, Cox regression. Why is it that I chose backwards stepwise regression over all of the alternatives that I could have utilized? You need to learn these kinds of things and gain that mastery. Nobody else is going to do that for you. Grad school is the time to be able to do this. It's a big mistake, I'm telling you right now. You probably won't even get through grad school if it's something where you're only doing what other people tell you how to do. Okay? And my number 5 in terms of the biggest graduate school mistakes that I think you can make is not embracing the suffering you're going to go through. Now, I'm not saying that you're necessarily going to suffer, but I am saying that you're going to be in a set of circumstances where the average human being would phenomenologically experience a sense of suffering, a sense of loss, a sense of anxiety, again, sense of depression, these sorts of things. As I tell my assistant Teresa, embrace the suck, right? Embrace it. Right? Why? Somebody put it really well. My friend Hannah, who I went to grad school with, put it really well once. She said that it's almost like somebody's put you into like a straitjacket, almost like they used to do in asylums, right? Like insane asylums. It's like somebody puts you in a straitjacket and you're kind of whipping yourself around so much for so many years that eventually, right, the straps start to loosen to the point where you're still in the straitjacket, but all of a sudden everything is kind of really quite loose and you can actually move around and it's a lot more comfortable than it used to be. If you don't kind of embrace this sense that you are getting stretched as a human being in terms of your cognitive capacity, your cognitive flexibility, your abilities, period, when it comes to your competencies concerning your field and your career choice, what you've decided that you want to do, it's it's really unfortunate because this is a great opportunity to grow as a human being. And like with a lot of different types of growth, it may not always be pleasurable, but at the same time, I can tell you from experience, especially having done it twice with 2 doctorates, that it's absolutely worth it. So those are my 5 when it comes to the 10 biggest graduate school mistakes. Toyin's got the other 5 for you. So check out Professor Alli's channel. Again, it's down below. It's called the Academic Society. Put it in quotes on YouTube. Subscribe to her channel, guys. If you like my content, you're going to love Toyin's content. Remember, it's YouTube. It's totally free to be able to subscribe. Check out some of her videos, and it's not showing me any kind of disloyalty, right, to be able to subscribe to multiple channels about this field of a career, academia. So I hope that you subscribe to her channel, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. To anybody who's watching this video from the Academic Society, I want to warmly welcome you guys here. Please do feel free to ask any questions that you have. I always try to get back to 100% of people who comment on any of my videos. And if you've got a high sensitivity question, meaning that it would be of interest to our thousands of subscribers here at Navigating Academia, I will always try to be able to make a response video for you. So, welcome. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and comment below because it helps out with the YouTube algorithm. Appreciate you guys. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace.